Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudramarudastunandi Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangapadakrammo Panishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavasthita Tadgatena Manasa Bhashyanti Yam Yogino Yasyantam Navidussura Suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Om Sudhismriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram. We are now dealing with the 15th verse of the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita with Sri Shankaracharya's commentary or exposition. The mantra is this: Yamhina Vyadhayandyete Purusham Purushashabha Samadukha Sukham Dhiram Somatatvaya Kalpate. He Purushashabha, Yam Samadukha Sukham Dhiram Purusham Ete Na Vidhayanti Saha Hi Amritatvaya Kalpate. Who is fit for immortality? Who is the spiritually fit person, the spiritual seeker, who deserves to realize the immortal nature of his true personality? That's explained here. The one who is able to look upon pain and pleasure, good and bad, fortune and misfortune, with an equanimity of mind, is the right person fit for immortality. The ability to look upon pain and pleasure with equanimity, with perfect tranquility in mind, comes as a result of transcending both pain and pleasure. The only way to avoid pain is to stop looking for pleasure. Because if we look for pleasure, if we aspire for enjoyment, then naturally we will have to pay a price for it. What's the price? The price is that we may have to be ready to suffer the opposite of pleasure. So one should be able to gain complete mastery and freedom over one's own mind and senses. It's not deadening of the human sensibility, rather it is transcending the duality, the transcending the dvandva, pain and pleasure, good and bad, going beyond the opposites. So we already discussed earlier, according to Bhagavad Gita, he is the one who is mentally healthy, who is able to connect his mind, link his mind to something that's beyond mind. Mind should be linked to Atman. So when we get linked to Atman, we transcend the mind. And when we transcend the mind, we go above the mind, above the waverings, above pain and pleasure. So we are able to look upon pain and pleasure with the same attitude, with perfect tranquility in mind and with perfect equanimity. So the Bhashyakara gives a very beautiful but short commentary on this verse. Yamhi purusham samadukha sukham same dukkha same dukkha sahe yasyatam samadukha sukham sukha dukkha prapto harsha vishadarahidam dhiram dhimantam na vyathayendi na chalayendi nityatma darshanat ete yadhoktaha sitoshnadayaha sa nityatma darshanishto dvandva sahishnuhu amritatvaya amrtabhavaya mokshaya kalpate samartho bhavati. Who is samartha? Who is fit to realize immortality, to realize the fact that he is none other than the omnipresent, the omniscient, the immortal, immanent Atman. That person is able to treat pain and pleasure, good and bad, with the same attitude. And because he is established in perfect equilibrium, the pairs of the opposites, such as heat and cold, Sita, Ushna, are not capable of disturbing him, because he has perceived the reality. So, yam hi purusham sugadukham same dukkha same yasyatam samadukha sukham sugadukkha prapto harshavishadirikhidam. When he enjoys sukha, he should not undergo the experience of harsha. Then, when he experiences dukkha, he will not have any vishada. So such a person is dhiman. That person is called dhira or dhiman. Dhiram, dhimandam, navyathayanti. Such a spiritually enlightened person is not moved, is not afflicted by the pairs of the opposites. Normally when we interpret, when we look upon ourselves as this body-mind complex, as this body with a mind, with emotions and feelings, then the smallest physical pain can be unbearable when we are at the physical level. Those who are more evolved and those who are living at a higher intellectual level may be able to transcend physical pain when they are engaged in some intellectual activity. If you are reading a very wonderful book, a philosophical classic, or even history or philosophy, or if you are a scientist, when you are involved in some very serious scientific experiments, and if you have a small physical problem, you won't be aware of that problem when you are deeply engaged in study in a library or in some scientific experiments in a laboratory, because you are able to ascend, you are able to lift yourself beyond the physical level, beyond the bodily level. For that moment, you interpret yourself as basically an intellectual thinking being. If you are a musician, when you are engaged in a musical performance, when you are intensely immersed in that, you'll be able to forget physical problems. You may even be able to forget some problems, emotional problems, pain and pleasure, disappointment, depression, when you are engaged in painting, in music, or in some kind of activity. Because at that time, you look upon yourself, you interpret yourself as a musician, maybe as a scientist, maybe an artist. So you are able to lift yourself beyond the physical and even beyond the intellectual. Now, if we can lift ourselves and beyond this level and ascend to the spiritual level by linking our mind to its original source of light, that is Atman, then we are able to ascend beyond the physical, beyond the psychological, beyond the intellectual, beyond the aesthetic levels, and from that level, when we look upon these empirical experiences, we are able to look upon all these experiences without any mental wavering, without any pain and pleasure, which means we are able to transcend ourselves beyond and above pain and pleasure. So we will be able to look upon pain and pleasure with the same equanimity of mind, perfect equilibrium of the mind. Siddhya siddhyo samabhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. As Lord Krishna is going to state later in the same second chapter. Nityatma Darshanat, because we are able to realize our true nature, that we are the Atman. And that Atman is Nitya, that Atman is immortal. It is not afflicted by dundas, pain and pleasure, good and bad, fortune and misfortune. So when we realize our true spiritual dimension, when we realize our true identity with Atman, then we are able to look upon pain and pleasure with the same attitude without being afflicted or moved by them. Nityatma darshanat eti yithoktaha sitoshnadeha. Saha nityatma darshananishto dundu savishnuhu amrutattvaya amrutabhavaya mokshaya kalpadi samartho bhavadi ityartha. So such a spiritual seeker is fit for immortality. He has reached the adhikaritva, spiritual fitness, to realize his identification with Atman, which is immortal, eternal, which is the essence of our true personality. Idascha shokamoho akrutva sidoshnadi sahanam yuktam yasmad. Now, to remain in such a situation, that means not yielding to grief and illusion, and to be able to bear with cold and heat with the same equanimity, we should reach this higher realization. That's explained in the 16th verse, which is very, very important from the Advaitic standpoint. So that's what we are going to discuss next. As an introduction to the 16th verse, Bhashyagara says, Idascha shokamoho akrutva sidoshnadi sahanam yuktam yasmad. How it is going to be possible? The philosophical and spiritual explanation of this spiritual experience, this state of spiritual evolution, is explained in the 16th chapter. In this context, the great commentator of Gita, that is Madhusudana Saraswati, he was the one who wrote a famous commentary on Bhagavad Gita. He harmonized the bhakti element, the original bhakti element of Shankara Vedanta, and the highest jnana. Madhusudana, who lived in the 16th century, was both a great jnani and also a great bhakta, and is famous for his magnum opus called Advaita Siddhi. He also wrote this well-known commentary on the Bhagavad Gita based on Shankara's Bhashya on the Gita. So Madhusudana gives a beautiful introduction to the 16th verse. Nanu bhavadu purushaikatvam tathapi tasya satyasya jadadrishtatrupaha satya eva samsaraha tathacha sidoshnadi sukhadukhakarani sati tadbhogasya avasyakatvad satyasya cha jnanat vinasha anubhavattehi katham tidiksha katham va saha amrutvaya kalpati iti chet na krishnasyapi dvaita pravanchasya atmani kalpitatvena tat jnanat vinashobhavattehi Shukto kalpidasya rajadasya shukti jnanena vinashavat. So, Madhusudana introduces this important verse. So he explains, Nanubhavadu purushaigattum tathapi tasya satyasya jada drishtatrupaha satyeva samsaraha. Now, the Purushaigattam, the unitary nature of Atman, how can it contradict the reality of the cycle of the sense world? Now that's a big problem for the students of Advaita. How do you explain the apparent reality of this empirical phenomenal world? When we look around, we are coming in contact with this natural phenomena. The reality of mountains, valleys, rivers, this world, pain and pleasure. So all these empirical experiences seem to be real. And we are not able to realize the reality of Atman. So how do you explain the reality of heat and cold? Or cold and heat, Sita and Ushna. Cold and heat, pleasure and pain are facts of life. तथा च शीतोष्णादि सुखदुःखकारणे सति तद्भोगस्य आवश्यकत्वात्. We are experiencing the reality of pain and pleasure, heat and cold. So how do you explain this idea? That's when we realize the immortal Atman, that's our true nature. We are able to transcend pain and pleasure. We are able to remain unafflicted, unmoved, unaffected by the waverings, the changes in our life, the changing experiences of pain and pleasure or heat and cold. How does this happen? Mere knowledge cannot do that. Satyasya jnana vinashanubhottehi. Just by theoretical knowledge that we are the Atman, we are not this body, we are not this mind, we are not the psyche, so we need not be afflicted by the cold and heat or pain and pleasure. Just this theoretical conviction cannot help us to wish away, it cannot remove the reality of pain and pleasure. So how does it happen? So mere knowledge cannot remove the real visible world of empirical reality. So how does it happen? Katham titiksha, katham va saha amritatvaya kalpate iti chet. How are we able to bear it? And how does this knowledge lead us to immortality? Such a question may be asked by the Purva-Pakshin. Is the prima facie argument, or the first line of first state of argument, let us say, maybe a statement from another school of philosophy, with the objector's view. When such a question is asked, Madhusudana gives a great famous reply. Na krishnasyapi dvaita prapanchasya atmani kalpitattvena tajnanat. So the whole world, the whole lot of empirical experiences constitute an imposition. It is a superimposition on Atman. It's just like superimposing names and forms on mud or clay by making pots and pans from a heap of clay. You are superimposing forms, and when the forms become apparent realities, you call them by different names. So Nama and Rupa are superimposed upon Atman, which is devoid of Nama and Rupa. Krishnasyapi dvaita prapanchasya atmani kalpitatvena. The whole dvaita prapancha, this world of apparent reality, is really not real, but certainly not absolutely unreal, which we are going to discuss in the coming Bhashya portions. Tajnanat krishnasyapi dvaita prapanchasya vinashabhavattehi. So once we realize that these names and forms, these emotional feelings of pain and pleasure, are nothing but superimpositions on Atman, then we are able to transcend this pain and pleasure, this Dvaita Prapancha. But it must be remembered that the entire ramification of dualism is misplaced on self. So once the fact of this superimposition is obvious and clear, then Dvaita Prapancha disappears. So Madhusudana gives a famous illustration here, a metaphor, that is Sukto Kalpidasya Rajadasya Sukti Jnanena Vinashavat. So if you're walking the seashore or maybe river bank, you may come across mother of pearls, things that look like silver but not really silver. From a distance, when you look at the pieces of mother of pearl, it's called nacre, it may resemble a genuine silver because it's brilliant, it is effulgent from a distance, but when you take it in your hands, when you show it against light, you realize the fact that it is not genuine silver, it is only mother of the pearl. So once you realize the delusion of silverness in that mother of pearl, Shuktika, Rajadatvam is negated when you realize the reality of Shuktika. Then what happens? Rajada Buddhi is also removed. Your wrong notion that it was silver is completely removed. Similarly, when we realize our true nature, when we realize that we have the Atman, the Brahman, that is immortal, that is Nitya, Satya, Shuddha, Buddha, Mukta, Subhava, that very moment we are able to lift ourselves above the empirical experiences of pain and pleasure, heat and cold. So that's a great exposition by Madhusudana. So the simple principle is all days dual experiences of pain and pleasure, heat and cold, belong to the Vyavaharika level, the empirical level, the relative level. And once we realize that we have a Paramarthika dimension, that we are the Atman, then the experiences belonging to the Vyavaharika level are naturally and completely dissolved. This is the great description that Madhusudana gives by introducing this 16th verse. Now we will go into the 16th verse. Nasato vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate sataha ubhayorapi dushtvandas tanayos tattvadarshibhi. Asataha bhavaha na vidyate sataha abhavaha na vidyate. Anayoho ubhayoho api antastu tattvadarshibhi drishtaha. So we have to explain what is the meaning of tattva and who is Tattvadarshi. So the word Tattva has got different meanings at different stages of the teachings as well as at different stages of the spiritual seeker's progress. This Tattva appears different stages. In the first Shatka, that is in the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, Tattva is only truth of the nature of karma as prescribed and understood by scriptures and realized persons. So from 1st chapter to 6th chapter, Tattva means the nature of karma. So it should be understood in the light of the famous Mahavakya Tattvamasi. In the 2nd Shatka is the truth seen through love and devotion of the devotee. That's emphasizing the bhakti aspect. And in the 3rd Shatka, Tattva means the highest identity of a spiritual seeker with Paramatman. So, Tattva should be understood in the light of the Mahavakya Tattvamasi. So Madhusudana and some other commentators have explained this way. So Drishtaha and Drishibhi, these are two important words used in this particular verse. Shows that the Atman as a distinct entity. So Tattva-drishibhi means Tattva-drishi is one who has seen Tattva, and this is in itself as different from the stages of underlying it. So we will go through the commentary. Nasataka avidyamanasya shitoshnadeki sakaranasya na vidyate na asti bhavo bhavanam astiva astida nahi shitoshnadi sakaranam pramanaihi nirupyamanam vastu sambhavati vikaro hi saha vikarascha vibhijarati yatha ghadadi samsthanam chakshusha nirupyamanam murvyatirekena anupalabdhehi asat तथा सर्वो विकारः कारणव्यतिरेकेण अनुपलब्धेहि असन जन्मप्रध्वंसाभ्यां प्रागूर्ध्वं न अनुपलब्धेहि. So the verse is very important, so it will require detailed exposition. So the simple meaning of the verse is this: something that is unreal cannot have a state of reality or being. And what is real can never be unreal. What is real can never have a state of non-being, just as what is being can never have the state of non-being. The exact state of the reality of all this are being perceived by great spiritual truths, great spiritual seekers who have realized the truth. Nasataha avidyamanasya sidoshnadeki sakaranasya na vidyate nasti bhavo bhavanam asthita. Things such as cold and heat and their causes, which belong to the category of asat. So asat in this particular Bhashya stands for mithya, that we will explain later as we progress. So cold and heat, pain and pleasure, and their causes belong to the category of the unreal. Those things, categories, which belong to the unreal can never have a state of being real, they can never be real. So what is unreal, what is absolutely unreal, can never be experienced even as an intellectual concept. So that should be understood very clearly. What is absolutely unreal can never be spoken of, can never be written about, cannot even have the state of the reality of a intellectual concept even. And that which is real can never have a state of being unreal. Cold and heat and their causes. So nahi sidoshnadi sakaranam, cold, heat, pain and pleasure, all these and their causes, when they are perceived from the highest standpoint, sakaranam pramanaihi nirupyamanam, when you observe, when you analyze shita, ushna, cold and heat, pain and pleasure, all these empirical experiences, when we go deeper, when we make a thorough analysis of it, then we realize that they really have no reality. No, they don't have the status of reality from the highest standpoint. For all these things, pain and pleasure, they are all changes, they are different levels of changes or transformations. Vikaro hi saha. Vikara implies change. Change implies impermanence. And what is impermanent can never be real in the absolute sense of the term. Whatever changes, whatever undergoes change can never be called real with the capital letter R. That is real in the absolute sense. Vikarascha vibhijarati yatha ghadadi samsthanam chakshusadi rupyamanam mrit vitirekena anubalabdhehi asat tatha sarvo vikaraha karana vitirekena anubalabdhehi asan. Examples are given. Pots, pans, glasses, all these utensils made from clay or earth or soil, they have no existence. They do not have an existence independent of earth or mud. So if you remove all the mud from a pot made of mud, then there is no pot, there is no mud pot. If you remove all the clay from a jar made of clay, then the jar disappears. That means the jar made of clay has no ontological reality or existence independent of clay. Similarly, all effects or vikarya means effects cannot have no reality without their causes. So in other words, clay is real, mud is real, a clay pot is not real, because without being a pot, the clay can exist. But without clay, the clay pot cannot exist. Without gold, a golden necklace, golden ornament cannot exist. But without being an ornament, gold can exist. So, a golden ornament has no ontological reality independent of gold. So, Bhashyakara says, Janma pradhum sabhyam pra urdham cha anubalabdhehi. Before the production of the pot made of clay, that pot did not exist. And after it is broken into pieces, so powdered, it doesn't exist because it goes back to clay. So what you call an earthen pot is nothing but a momentary phenomenon. So we superimpose the shape and form of a pot on clay, and then you give it a name to distinguish that clay pot from other utensils made of the same material. So before the production and after the destruction, they have no reality. So here in this context, of course, another school of philosophy holding another view as something else to say. So Purva Paksha actually means prima facie view, means the first reading of an argument, or it could be the view of another school of philosophy which does not agree with the views of Advaita. Mudadikaranasya tatkaranasya cha tatkarana vitirekena anubalabdhehi asatvam tad asatve cha sarva abhava prasanga iti ched. So here is a important argument. The argument is this: mud or clay which serves as the cause of the pot, and that cause can have another cause. So if the if the clay pot or earthen pot is unreal, then earth cannot be unreal, because the pot is unreal, we understand, because it's made from clay or earth. So if the effect is unreal, then the cause of that effect cannot be real, and the cause of that cause also cannot be real. So sarva abhava prasanga. In that case what happens? Everything will have to be termed as non-existent. So, you put in Vedantic perspective, if you say this world is unreal, this world of names and forms are unreal, then you have to admit the cause of this unreal world also should be unreal, and the cause of that unreal cause of this world also should be unreal. So everything becomes unreal. It becomes sarvabhava. So it can lead to this fallacy of argument, the fallacious argument, wrong argument, this irrational argument. Everything is unreal. So that's the interpretation given here. Here, of course, before we go further, we have to understand the meaning of asatvam here. Asatvam mentioned in this Bhashya does not mean absolute unreality. What it means is something that is unreal from the highest perspective. So that's why Bhashyakara said, Nahi Sidoshnadi Sakaranam Pramanaihi Nirupyamanam Vastu Sambhavati. Cold and heat and their causes are unreal when Pramanaihi Nirupyamanam, when viewed from the highest standpoint of the absolute reality. But at the relative level, at the Vyavaharika level, they do have an existence. Bhashyakara says elsewhere, we have to admit the reality of this world, we have to admit the empirical reality of this world, till we realize that Atman is only reality. So, Prag Brahmatma Vijnana Sarva Loka Vyavakaranam Satyatva Vabhuteki. Yatha Prag Supnaseva Supnavad. So, before you wake up, the dream experiences are real. We realize the unreality of dream experiences only when we come out of dreams. When we are dreaming, the dream objects are real. Similarly, when we are living in this world, when we are slowly doing spiritual practice with the purpose of realizing ultimately the unreality of these empirical things by transcending them, by realizing our immortal nature, that we are Atman. Before we reach that level of realization, we cannot just wish away the apparent reality of empirical experiences. So, Prag Brahmatma Vijnana Sarva Loka Vyavakaranam Satyatva Vabhuteki. Till we realize this Brahman, we have to admit as if this world is real. So we have to do Nishkarma Karma, we have to practice unselfishness, purity, all the essential disciplines of spiritual life, and practice Karma Yoga with a view to attain Chitta Shuddhi. Once we attain Chitta Shuddhi, then we automatically transcend this level. It is not something that we attain, it is the self-discovery of our true nature. We are not throwing something away, rather we are discovering the true nature that we inherently are. That's an important point, remember. So the word asatvam here doesn't mean absolute unreality. It means mithya. And the word mithya has got a number of definitions in Vedantic polemical philosophical literature. It can be called anirvachaniya. So, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Napara. Jagat is mithya. It is something that we mistake to be real so long as we are within the realm of Dvaita or ignorance, and something that we recognize or realize to be unreal when we transcend, when we realize the reality of Brahman. So in Vedanta, this world is not absolute reality like Brahman. At the same time, it is not absolute unreality either. So it could be called anirvachaniya or indescribability or relativity. So the word mithya is being defined by the great post-Shankarite Advaitins like Padmapada says, Atyanta bhavattve sati asatva atyanta bhavarupam visishtam sadhyam sadasat anadhigaranatvam va mithyatvam. It is an important view of Padmapada in his famous book Panchapadika. And in Panchapadika Vivaranam Prakashatmayadi says, Pratipannopadu Traigarika Nisheda Pratyogitvam va mithyatvam. And Prakashatman in the Vivarana Prasthana again he says Jnana Nivartitvam va mithyatvam. It again comes in the Panchapadika Vivarana. And Chitsukacharya and Chitsukhi Tattvapadika says Swasraya Nishtha Atyanta Bhava Pratyogitvam va mithyatvam. And the fifth definition is Sat Avyuktam Dva mithyatvam. So the simple essence of all these five definitions is this. Something that remains, that is experienced or seen to be real at the relative level, but something that we realize to be unreal when we transcend it. When we look for this mithya world, as we look for the cause of the earthen pot, then we understand that this mithya world, this unreal world, or the relative world, doesn't exist the same way without change in the past, present and future. So that's why as this Panchapadika Vivarana says, Pratipanno bhados taikadika nishedha pratyogitvam va mithyatvam. So when we look for something that exists without any change in the past, present and future, then we realize this world of empirical experiences is not something that remains permanent without changes. It is changing every moment. Our mind changes, our attitudes change, our body changes, and this empirical phenomenal world also undergoes changes. So it doesn't remain unchanging in the past, present and future, trikala. It changes throughout its existence. So its existence is only relative. It is not absolutely real, but it is not absolutely unreal because we experience it at the Vyavaharika level, but it is not a Paramarthika reality, so it is not absolute reality either. So that point is going to be explained. Tat asatvecha sarvabhava prasanga iti chet. So this objective's Purvakshin's view doesn't hold ground. Because by asatvam, the Advaitin does not mean absolute unreality. The Advaita only means it is mithya. It is something that is subject to changes. So it is not absolutely real. So what is not absolutely real is mithya. But we talk about it because we very often may misinterpret this impermanent world as something permanent. As a child may not think that the pot would not exist, the pot did not exist before it was made. We may think that these pots remain unchanging. If you tell the Dvaitin philosophers or Ramanuja and Madhva philosophers that we are superimposing Nama and Rupa on the clay or the earth, so we call them different utensils, they wouldn't admit. They would admit that they have different names, different forms. So the Prayoga, the at the prayogika level, at the vyavaharika level, we use them for different purposes. So they do have a different entity. That's interpretation of the non-Advaitic philosophers. But Advaitins say essentially, because they are subject to changes, they cannot be called absolutely real. Na sarvatra buddhidvayo balabdhehi sadbuddhi asadbuddhi iti. So Bhashyakara says, such an objection cannot rise here, because all experiences are constituted by a twofold consciousness, that is sadbuddhi, that is the consciousness of the real, and asadbuddhi, consciousness of the unreal. Yad vishaya buddhi na vibhijarati tat asat. Yad vishaya buddhi vibhijarati tat asat. So a pot exists now, you broke it and is powdered, becomes clay. So now you say the pot is, but when you break it, you have to say the pot is not. So both is sadbuddhi and is not asadbuddhi. It changes from one state to another state. So there is a change. So it is vibhijarati, it undergoes changes. So whatever undergoes change, whatever undergoes deviation is asat, and whatever remains unchanging is sat. Yad vishaya buddhi na vibhijarati tat sat. Yad vishaya buddhi vibhijarati tat asat iti sadasat vibhage buddhi tantre sthite. So when our consciousness or awareness of an object does not change, and this is possible only with regard to Brahman or Atman, then it is Sat. And when it changes, it deviates, then it is called unreal, it is Asadbuddhi. The distinction between Sadbuddhi and Asadbuddhi often depends upon our consciousness. Sarvatrahi dve buddhi sarvaihi upadabhyete samanadhikarane. We'll explain samanadhikarana later. Bhashyakara gives examples. Nilor plavat san pataka, san khataka, san pataka, san hasti idi evam sarvatra. So Nilam Utpalam is an example taken. San pataka, san khataka, san hasti idi evam sarvatra. So we will explain this in the next class. The central point of today's discussion was is a very important principle in Vedanta. Whatever undergoes changes, deviations, whatever is changing from time to time, from past to present and from present to future, is and cannot be called real in the absolute sense of the term. And from the highest perspective of Brahman, it is unreal if something changes from time to time, if it changes from past to present and from present to future, any kind of deviation, then it implies unreality, it is unreal. But unreal here does not mean absolute unreality. Unreal in this context means mithya, that is relative. Just like the earthen pot, the clay pot that exists for some time, did not exist before it was made by a pot maker, and would cease to exist when you break it and powder it, it goes back to its clay state. So it is not real, but then it is not absolute unreality either, because it exists for some time. But it has no existence independent of earth. Similarly, this world, this changing world, as world is unreal, in the sense it is only relative, it is changing all the time. But the essence of this world is Brahman. You look at this world without associating it with name and form, then you are looking at Brahman only. The Brahman you cannot look at, but then it is this world minus name and form and causation, it is Brahman. When you superimpose name and form on Brahman, then it is seen to be this world. So we'll explain this later in the coming sessions. Thank you. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Rama Krishna.